a second, make sure this is all. I'm on TikTok and I don't see me on TikTok. I don't know if it takes a minute or not.
Yeah, maybe there's a
Oh,
lag.
I don't know. Maybe. But your picture was fine, and then all of a sudden it just went boop.
Mm, doing the best we can.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. All right. Now we're live on Facebook. Okay. It's yeah. I guess it might have just taken some time to get to each feed. And welcome to anybody that's watching. And um, I apologize as we're under renovation.
Transition.
Yeah, we're transitioning to a new software that's supposedly better, but we'll be the judges of that. We'll see how this goes. But it should be an upgrade as far as streaming to different places at once, and it'll make my video editing that much better, and I may be able to see you all on the chat. I'll put my chat up, so uh, and hopefully I'll see that if you chat. This is all a nice experiment. Oh, I'm on Facebook, and your picture looks better on Facebook, Suzanne.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it might not be bad. Yeah, it just might look blurry on
Okay, cool.
our laptop. So, because I think each little behind the scenes here for everybody as we're sorting things out, I think we each of our the, computers have different feed. So that and I think
Okay.
that's one of the things with the software is it gives better sound and everything too as well. So, and my picture is frozen on here on the screen that we see, but I see I'm still moving on Facebook. So,
Yes, and you're
um,
moving on my end.
okay, good. All right, yeah. So it's just me. All right. Okay, I can watch us on Facebook then. So, welcome everybody to GenX Book Club, part of Gen X Journeys. And I'm Paul Stroessner, if you're new here. And along with me is Suzanne Mattaboni and Del Rayling.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, and this month's book is Films of Endearment, A Mother, a Son, and the 80s Films That Defined Us by Michael Koresky. And little facts before we dive into it. It was published on May 4th, 2021. And this is a little description. Films of Endearment, A Mother, a Son, and the 80s Films That Defined Us is a heartfelt memoir meets film critique. Over the course of 16 months, Koresky rewatched 10 female-driven films from the 1980s with his mother, movies that shaped him, spoke to her, and revealed new sides of their relationship. It's part love letter to the 80s cinema, part family story, and part reflection on how movies connect us across generations. And this was really a unique book. Yeah, this was Dell's pick. Yeah, it was a very good one. Something a little bit different and a little bit of everything. Memoir. I look back at movies and everything. So pretty cool. Um, so what? Do you guys want to talk about your thoughts on this book so far?
Well,
Well, Del, it was your pick, so.
I don't have to be first. I recommended this because I had read it. I probably read it about, I don't know, 2 years or so and ago, and I kind of forgot about it as we were talking about what books to pick from month to month. And then I don't know, we were doing some stuff around the house, and I was getting rid of some other books and came across this one, and I thought, well, that would be a good one for us to use. And I read it a second time, and I just, it reminded me how much I enjoyed this. Now, I love movies, especially 80s movies, so that helps. And there were some movies that, and we kind of, when we met last week, I had not seen, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 of these, so almost half of them. And I went back, and I didn't accomplish my goal to get them all watched before we met tonight, but most of them now. So I added a couple to the list here that I had not seen. But I just think it was a neat idea of his to get to know his mom a little bit better. through movies, and I'm that kind of I don't know. I always thought I was a little bit different because after I see a movie with somebody, I like to dissect it
Hmm.
and get their opinions and just different scenes and characters and their thoughts. And most of the time when I go to a movie, they're like, "Okay, what's next?" Like no one wants to talk about the movie. So this was really cool for me to see that he shared that interest and he got to know his mom through a lot of it and understood some of the things that she went through during that time period that um, probably didn't because he was so young and we were so young that we weren't even thinking about when we were watching these movies. I mean, Nine to
Hmm.
Five was a comedy, but as you go back and look at it now, there were some serious issues there that were happening in the workplace that I think now would never be acceptable. So, and just some of these other movies and what the female lead characters um, had to deal with in a lot of these films, just kind of eye opening. So,
Hmm. Yeah, and with and she brought up her own work experience, and yeah, how much it paralleled that. So yeah, it was kind of eye opening. Um, yeah, I don't think.
Um,
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a while.
Nine to
Probably a couple
Five.
of decades. Yeah, yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's been a while.
There
So
there was talk of a sequel a couple of years back. I don't know how that would have worked, but
mhm.
that never happened. Suzanne, what are your thoughts?
yes.
You probably have a
Um,
completely different perspective than
Mm,
both of us.
well, well, it depends. Well, first off, what I was struck by the fact that it's really, really beautifully written.
mhm,
As a writer, I'm always very interested in the language and how the book is composed. And he is really, really talented. But yet, he doesn't really talk about himself as a writer. He talks about himself as a film critic. Like
mm,
movies were his life. He wasn't looking to be this wonderful writer with such a great command of the language. But along the way, it's definitely what he's become. I don't know if that's what he cares to identify himself as. Speaking of identification, I thought it was interesting. I mean, obviously, I love '80s movies too, and had seen most of these. I went back and watched Terms of Endearment, which is one of it was a very popular, big popular movie at the time. But that was maybe there was one other that I hadn't seen, unless I'm forgetting. But did see most of these, or at least had some knowledge of most of them, because I did also work a little bit in film in the '80s for film companies.
mm,
Um, and the thing is, my mother is a movie fanatic, and we would interpret a lot of things in life through movies also. So I thought a lot of that was interesting, the way that he got to know his family and his what his mother had been through and how different it was. Like we talk a lot ourselves about what this meant to me when I saw it as a young person, and what it means seeing it through different eyes now that you're older, or you're a parent, or you've been through the system where you've had to fight for your career and what have you. it
mhm,
it always makes a big difference. But I know that there were a couple of very serious things that he felt a lot of these movies reflected on and revealed things about in his life, including a lot of it was, his mother's role as both a mother or in the workplace or as a caretaker of his father, who then died, had dementia for a long time, and then died
mhm,
young, which her father died young also. So he's kind of seeing both sides now of being the child who loses a father at about the same age that his mother did, and getting to kind of try to cope with that and experience that and realize that his mother was dealing with that very same thing when he was young. So some of those things were very poignant, and very um, the way that he analyzed them was very intelligent, and it was nice to go through that revelation with him.
mhm,
Um, and then, of course, there was a lot of revelation that he found about himself and his own sexual orientation, uh, which I think it added a lot of interest to the book. I'm almost wondering if this wouldn't really be uh, that much of a memoir if it were not for that. So it was definitely interesting, and definitely eloquent. And
Mm.
you know, some of the movies I thought it was going to be like fun movies that from the 80s that we appreciated. It was not quite fun movies, maybe one.
Yeah.
But I think it was much more serious tones that he chose to revisit. So
Hmm.
that's my initial
Yeah.
impression.
Yeah.
Well, and the first time I read it, I actually read the book. The second time I listened to the
That's true.
audiobook, and to hear him talk about these things, it was a whole different feeling than just reading the words on the paper. So to go back to what you had talked about, Suzanne,
Mhm.
that really you feel for him and what he's going through in a lot of these cases, and the confusion, and you know the mourning of his father, and just it was just a different way to experience the book going through the audiobook.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so he did
That.
his own narration. He did his own audiobook.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, this
Well,
is
with memoirs, I
again one of the
guess you kind of need to hear that voice. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
right. Yeah, I wonder what it would be like listening to a memoir that somebody else was narrating. Yeah, that would be interesting. Because I'm sure
And
they're out there. Because some people might feel
Hmm.
uncomfortable reading. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was
maybe because I mean, it does take a certain skill.
I was going to ask you both. He talked about in the book that his mom is the one that um, sort of introduced him to movies,
Hmm.
and I think we all have that person. It sounds like we're all movie buffs. Who was Suzanne? Maybe was it your mom that did that for you?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I guess my father is I guess a movie person too, but because she's dragging him to movies, just that they just see movies and movies. And my parents are retired now. They go to movies like that's probably a couple times a week. But my mother she was like a big science fiction fan and um, horror, and she's just like a little kid. She gets so excited about everything. And then there was, as we got older, like we had a pact when I was like in my 20s, that we would go see every single Mel Gibson movie that came out together. It was just what we did, So we added kind of different tiers of interest to our, movie going. But uh, definitely. And then my brother became a cameraman and a videographer, so he was always a big
Oh,
movie
wow.
person too, and he's written screenplays and stuff. So we did kind of turn out to be an entertainment type of family.
Oh, love it. Yeah. Well, for me, yeah, as far as movies go, yeah, probably my dad with all the war movies, and he was into science fiction as well. So, yeah, so he got me into Star Trek, and I saw those movies, and Star Trek led to Star Wars. But uh, I think with my mom, it was a lot of it was the television, especially the miniseries. Like I remember the miniseries, Centennial and North and South, and well, as far as movie songs, she loved the Sound of Music and all that. So,
Oh
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
See,
So that was all that. Mhm.
yeah, see, my mother. I guess we stretched in those directions too, because she did watch a lot of TV, and she watched um the sci-fi on TV also, to the point where this was just on in the house all the time, where there were all these kind of weird, very bad, what they called at the time B movies,
Mhm.
Uh huh.
that B science fiction movies that would play in my house when I was really little. So this was like maybe the early 70s. Um, and I have this encyclopedic knowledge of all these terrible sci-fi and horror films, in black and white. They used to play,
Yep.
on the Chiller Theater and stuff. That, and she loved Hollywood musicals, and we
Mm,
would
mm.
watch everything. And I became like a huge theater person and went on to do shows and that kind of thing. So, I just saw a lot of those movies too. I saw like every Hollywood musical under the sun in Technicolor. It was beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. My mom loved those too, and like all the Disney movies and stuff like the original Parent Trap and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys have the Creature double feature on Saturday mornings? Or maybe that's just it's on a Boston channel here. Like on Saturday, well, Saturday after the cartoons were over, like the early afternoon, it was on creature double feature, and it's exactly what you described in Suzanne. It was all the Godzilla movies and King Kong, but then then it was like all those B science fiction movies.
Yeah,
So
there
that
was some
brought that
kind of
back.
similar program called, I think it was called Chiller Theater. And
Uh-huh.
there was, I don't know if anybody's from the New York area, people still remember in horror, there was like a promo for that where there was like claymation, and you didn't see that this now where you see it everywhere because it's all computer generated. At the time, it was like a hand that came up from the ground and kind of did this and like
Uh-huh.
spelled out chiller. Like anybody from the New York area is
Oh.
going, yes, yes, yes. Scared the hell out of me. But it was really creepy. And they played all these old horrifying, movies. And sometimes the acting was really, really terrible. But as a child, you're still scared to death. They still scared me to death. And some of them were pretty good. Like I remember seeing the original Shrinking Man and the original The Fly,
Yeah.
where people are like in terrible jeopardy through this, and fighting with spiders and all that. This was just horrible. But I had a lot of nightmares. A lot of nightmares because she would just sit me on the floor and she'd be like ironing or something and watching all these terrible horror movies. It's true.
Oh, that's awesome. um, yeah, and I also thought it was interesting that because he didn't specify for her to pick out what decade. He asked her what decade was her favorite, and even though she was born in 48, so you would think like the classic Hollywood era would have been her era with the 50s and 60s, all the huge actors and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But she picked the 80s. That was her favorite because that's when it was our first full decade of being a mother and raising young children. And this was also a good point. It's also when the VCRs came out. So that if you didn't
Yes.
catch the movie in the theater, or even cable TV for that matter, I don't think you mentioned that, but yeah, then you'd be able to, if you didn't catch it in the theater, you could watch it at home. So yeah, so I could see why they went with that. And
Yeah, it's true. That's the first time you were able to kind of control your viewing of movies, because beforehand, cable came out, but not everybody had cable when it first came out.
mhm,
And even then, they would pick like, a couple movies per month and they would just play them constantly. And before that, forget it. You went to see something in the movies and you would just go back and see it in the movie theater over and over again if you
mhm,
wanted to see it again, because it wasn't going to come on to television for like 4 or 5 years.
right.
It took forever
Mhm,
to be able to see a big movie on television. But when you hit the 80s and you were able to just go out and get videotapes, it's true. You could see that movie when you wanted, with whom you wanted to, and, stop and talk about the scene in the middle if you wanted to. So you were a
mhm,
lot more in control. That is funny because, like our parents would probably, like you're saying, talk about like the golden age of Hollywood as being those movies from the 50s and, those kind of Hollywood musicals and such. But yet we can look back now, and I think the 80s were kind of a golden period
mhm,
uh, for movies, because, and the things that he was describing a lot of their choices were all like very character driven,
so,
uh, female driven stories, female leads. Uh, and he was explaining that these movies aren't really in style anymore. Like they don't really make character driven movies anymore.
mm,
And that didn't even really hit me until reading someone else say that, because I don't go to the movies nearly as much as I used to. But maybe that's part of the reason why, because I look at it like, something that young kids do, to go see things blow up or people get slashed by, by the scream monster or what have you.
mm,
But I just kind of thought maybe those movies were out there and I just wasn't that interested anymore because I have a different kind of life. But sadly, no, maybe they're not making them. It's not how they can make money anymore. They just make sequels and comic book movies and superhero movies and, and slasher movies. And that's really sad.
mhm.
It's really sad
Yeah, maybe these
and kind of
days it's
disappointing.
more going on to the streaming services like Netflix and all that. I'm not sure. We do in Providence, Rhode Island. I know there are a couple of those small local theaters, that art house theaters and stuff, so that they'll play stuff like that. But yeah, yeah. I think it's mostly all the big blockbusters that you see in the main theaters these days.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, I should have written down each of the movies for each year that he, because I'm trying to remember them
Oh,
now,
I got you.
and I can't remember
I was
them
just
all.
gonna. I was just actually
I
gonna
wrote them
get
down
You got
into
the
too.
that.
list?
Yep, I wrote them too.
Yeah, yeah.
Good for
All
you.
right,
And I
all
don't
right.
want to
So,
bring it up on, as I said, it upsets my internet connection if I pull too many things up.
oh yeah, yeah. All right, yeah. So we talked about 9 to 5 was 1980, and then
Mhm.
do you just want me to go through the list first, or do you want to like stop at each one for a minute?
We
Because
we can we could do each one.
okay, so the 1981. All right, we kind of talked about 95, and the next one was interested in Mommy Dearest with
Mommy Dearest.
yeah, Faye
Mommy Dearest
Dunaway,
was scary.
Joan Crawford. Yeah,
Speaking of horror movies, yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I guess it wasn't supposed to be a horror movie though. I don't know. I'm still wondering how much of that is true and how much of it is drama.
Yeah,
Um, and he was wondering also. But it was very campy, and
can't be.
I don't know. It was a big hit. They keep talking about it like, well, it ended her career, but I mean, it was everybody knew the movie. Everybody
Yeah,
knew it.
yeah, um, yeah. It really connected with them because if this was all correct, yeah, like uh, she probably sounds like she had
Right.
borderline personality disorder, Joan Crawford, and then Michael's grandmother, his mother's mother, seemed to have the same personality. So it's like she it sounded like she was like starting to go through a little bit of trauma there. Watching that
Yeah, that's
again,
right.
reliving
Yeah,
that.
that was kind of sad.
Mhm.
And see, at the time when you watched the movie, I don't think there was any definition of borderline personality disorder.
Mhm.
They were just like, well, she's crazy.
Yeah.
Like they didn't identify different type of disorders, and they, on top of that, didn't really have a lot of ways to deal with them.
Mhm.
So it's kind of sad that they just kind of pegged you as being, difficult or being crazy or being, a terrible mother, or when actually it
Mhm.
was just, maybe some kind of chemical imbalance that, and some mental illness that they were dealing with. But the fact that his mother was able to so clearly say, yes, that behavior right there, that sentence, my mother said that all the time, to
Mhm.
just, to kind of document that, yeah, this is a very specific um, issue, mental health issue that this woman had. And it's just being made into like this campy material as opposed to now it would be treated as something that someone could address.
Mhm.
So that was kind of sad to me. And never thought for a moment when I was watching it, oh, well, she might be bipolar or,
Mhm.
whatever exactly it might be. We just never thought of things that way.
Well, I was waiting for Child Protective Services to show up, but I remembered it was 1981. So
Right.
Yeah.
I think back then it was like, yeah, you just deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, if it's a wealthy person and,
Mm.
Yeah.
you know, who's going to come look and see what's in her refrigerator?
Yeah. This-
Jeez.
yes, I know somebody that had that. Yeah, she's since passed, but yeah, and that and seeing and watching this again, it was like the exact type of thing. So yeah, like
Wow.
like the one thing that stood out to me was like the scene in the pool with the little girls in the pool, and then Joe Crawford wants to like race her, and then like and
Yeah.
then like
She's like,
she
I'll
like
beat you
beats her.
again.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
it's like rubbing in her face. Yeah,
But,
It-
she
yeah.
was so competitive, though, and in an industry where she was constantly being judged and had
Mm,
to beat people out. So
yeah,
maybe in
that
her
had
kind of
something to do with it.
distorted mind, that was just
Hmm.
what you do.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Yes, that was yeah, that was a tough one. Yeah, it's funny. I always when I was younger, yeah, I always conflated Mommy Dearest with Flowers in the Attic for some reason.
Yeah, well, that would probably came out around the same
Around the
time. I
same
think that was
time, I
early
think.
'80s that those books came out.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe that was, I don't know,
I'm glad he didn't
a
pick that movie.
torturous mother or something.
Yeah.
I didn't see that movie when it was out, and I watched it maybe about 10 years ago. I'm like, oh, I should have just not, yeah, I should have just kept my streak of not watching it. How disturbing. And I think they redid it. I think they
It was
Oh,
redid the
really?
creepy.
movie. Yeah.
Oh.
So I don't know, but
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so disturbing.
Yeah. Yeah. But those were my
It
mom
was.
books. That's another thing. My mom, if anything, more
Yeah.
than movies, she was a reader. So she read, like, if there were books of these, she read those. She's still is an avid reader and everything. So yeah. Yeah. So I
Yeah, my
remember
mom too,
seeing
and I would
these.
steal the books. I stole that book. I stole The Flowers in the Attic from her and read it. She didn't know I stole her books. I was like 11. Seriously. I read The Shining when I was like 12 years old. It was
Oh yeah, I did that when I was the shine. Oh no, I'm sorry.
yeah.
It was Salem's Lot that I read when I was like 10.
Oh my God, that was worse.
Yeah.
But what the hell? She was bringing me to all the terrifying movies. Like I saw The Omen when I
Right.
was like 5 or something. In the drive-in, she would take us to the drive-in, so she didn't have to get a babysitter. So me and my brother were always being dragged along to the drive-in. All these terrifying movies that, of course, I would listen to. I couldn't go to sleep; they were riveting. But but nightmares. Oh my God,
Mhm.
it was such a terrifying movie. But yeah, yeah, I stole her books too.
Let's see. Oh, go at 1982. This is one I never even heard of before. Come back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, and yeah, I think Michael's
No.
the one that could relate to this because well,
Mhm.
he's gay, but there's apparently I didn't watch it yet, but there's like a trans woman in this.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
and I'm surprised I never heard of this because it's a really good cast and everything. So and it is free on YouTube.
I remember hearing about it. Yeah, I remember hearing
Hmm.
about it as a play also.
Hmm.
Um, I think I remember seeing commercials. Once again, if you live in the New York area at the time, they would put television commercials on for the Broadway shows and off Broadway shows even.
Hmm.
So you would get to see little clips of them. They would videotape the performances, and that would be the commercial. I do remember. I remember the play. I remember the movie. I remember them interviewing Cher because it was her first movie role, and nobody was really taking her very seriously. But I remember hearing her talk about the movie and being kind of impressed that she really did sound very natural.
Hmm.
Like she was just not like I'm a movie star. It was just kind of like, yeah, I'm nervous. I'm gonna have to, when the show, I'm gonna have to go run to the bathroom and pee. I'm gonna be so nervous. I don't know. And I thought that was really funny that she was just so frank about, you know, being about this performance that she had to do. So, but supposedly, she did well. But yeah, interesting. I did not remember the subject matter, being so controversial, which it would have
Hmm.
been at the time. But yeah, I guess good for them for, getting a green light on that. I guess it would have to
Hmm.
be a play first if somebody just came to them and said, "Okay, here's my movie script," and somebody's going to be surprised, trans woman, and that's the main character. They probably would have been, had the door slammed in their face in
Hmm.
1982 it was.
Uh, yeah.
80,
Well,
82.
Hmm.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it
went
was
back and
limited in
watched.
how people.
Yeah, I went back and watched it. Paul, you mentioned it's free on YouTube and legally, by the way. So it's not.
Yeah. Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, but it was a reminder, and I read the chapter obviously first, and then I went back and watched the movie just to kind of see how he was feeling through this, and trying to
Hmm.
identify with somebody who just wasn't accepted. And
Hmm.
you feel that when you're watching this movie, and there's a character in the film that makes a point to Karen Black is the actress, lets her character know, like, basically, I'm not, no matter what you say, I'm not going to accept you. And it's a reminder of, and I think in some cases we're still there in some parts of society, but I think it's a reminder of maybe how far we've come. But and
Yeah.
you kind of look back on it and go, gosh, why were people treated that way? But
Mhm.
Anyway, it was a good movie. I'm glad I watched it, but I had not seen it, and I'd heard of it, never seen it. And Suzanne, as you were talking, I was thinking, I wonder if because of the subject matter, you both said you'd only heard of it, kind of knew a little bit about it, and Paul, you said you had not heard. I
Mhm.
wonder if it's because of the subject matter, that's why we didn't hear about it,
Mhm.
or why we just
Yeah,
maybe
that's a
knew a
good
little
point.
bit about it. So, um,
Yeah, that's an interesting
yeah,
point. That
because
maybe it
that
just
was
wasn't
very,
it wasn't particularly publicized,
yeah, and
because
Mhm.
of the subject matter. People weren't getting behind it in the, corporate offices, I guess, who would
yeah,
need to back that stuff and push it. So that's interesting.
yeah, somebody, somebody back then was able to get it made, and that's great.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Yeah.
today I don't, probably wouldn't even be give it a second thought, you know. So,
Hmm.
Yeah.
but
Well, in
but
some areas.
yeah, well, yeah, that's true. But just hearing his, what he was going through back then,
Mhm.
and being able to identify with it, it's, as you watch it, just kind of think of that if you do go back and watch the movie.
Mhm. Yep. All right. And then see, 1983 was kind of the namesake of this, Terms of Endearment. Uh, I can't remember if I actually even saw that. I don't think I've seen this. I've just, just from, seeing scenes from it and everything. I don't think I ever sat and watched the whole movie before.
So I'm not ashamed to admit this, but there are two movies that I will cry at the very end: Home Alone and Terms of Endearment.
Uh,
So there you go.
not Field of Dreams.
No, no,
Oh
I feel,
wow.
yeah,
Aw,
I have a good feeling
I
of Field
cry
of
in Fields of
Dreams.
Dreams.
Yeah, I mean, it's very touching, but yeah, I don't know what it is about this movie, but it's
Mhm.
I've watched it, I don't know how many times, um and maybe I'm relating to it, in some ways that he did as well. But
Mhm.
it's such a good movie and such a great cast, and the characters, you become invested in them, and it's just, Shirley MacLaine's strong in it, Deborah Winger is strong in it. Two different paths of life that they both went, and you kind of understand, with Shirley MacLaine, kind of, the husband dies and she's got to raise her daughter by herself, and so, and her daughter, she doesn't ever agree with anything she does, just kind of an overbearing mom, very judgmental. um, so it's one of the best movies of the decade.
Mhm.
See, I
Yep.
didn't see it back in the day, as they say. I did rewatch that one and realized that I had seen, like you were saying, I had seen a lot of clips from the movie. I was recognizing a lot of the scenes. Um, I don't know, maybe they played it at the Academy Awards or something, but I know that I saw that death scene with Deborah
Mhm.
Winger and Shirley MacLaine, and I know that I'd seen other clips of some of the more sad scenes that they are, of course, superbly acted throughout. In watching it, I definitely recognize kind of the storytelling style of the 80s. And, it's so starkly different from anything that you watch today when you kind of like get into these Netflix series and there's a whole different like pace and stuff. So,
Mhm.
uh, that sense of being very character driven, I think that was really um, part of the appeal of Terms of Endearment. That was definitely, you were following these people through their lives and getting little vignettes of them going from different phases throughout, where uh, they're just trying to cope with different elements, including, for Deborah Winger, seemed to make very almost purposefully bad choices in her life, like almost to get back at her mother. So it was a really bad dynamic that they had, but they still seemed to, when they really needed to support each other, So it was an interesting, it was almost like a very long vignette,
Mhm. Mhm.
slice of life kind of vignette, but really, really beautiful to watch in how emotional the performances were. So, and yeah, made me
Mhm.
very, very sad. Very,
Well,
very
he
sad
he,
because
he
things,
talks about
how
it that
things can kind of turn on a dime.
Yeah, yeah. He talks about the beginning of the movie as, somewhat of a comedy, a dramedy or whatever you want to call it, and then all of a sudden, you know, uh, halfway through, three quarters of the way through the movie, it's like this is a tragedy,
Mhm.
and it, I know he talked a lot about what he went through with his dad
His dad.
during
Yep.
that chapter, and again, listening to the audio
Mm.
book, it's a whole different feel to it, but
Mhm.
it kind of reminded me. I was thinking back to that. Suzanne, you mentioned the scene where Deborah Winger, that last scene between her and Shirley MacLaine, where Deborah Winger's in bed and she looks at Shirley MacLaine, and that last moment, and then she's
Yeah,
gone.
she just gives this
And
little wave.
yeah, yeah, and it
Give me
just
chills.
it reminds you of people that that have been so important in your life that are gone. And for me, like my grandmother, I was there with my grandmother. It was when she passed away. I was the only one in the room with her, and it's just it reminds you of that moment and that emotion that you feel. And the other thing too for me is that it's a whole different feel watching this movie now with kids. Because I think of what if that was my daughter, and at one point, after she passes, I think she says a line like, there's nothing harder or something like that, or I didn't think it would be this, I thought I would be ready for this. And you just think, oh my gosh, what if something happened to one of my kids? What if I was in that room, and and I'm there having to support my child, now, and they're gone. I mean, it's not supposed to work that way. So I think, from that standpoint, it's you know, I'm glad he picked that movie, but I'm sure watching that film was extremely tough for him,
Mhm.
just because of the whole subject matter. So I'll stop talking. Sorry.
That's right.
I got long
Yeah,
winded on that one.
that's great.
No,
Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. But yeah, that you just bring up another point in my head that this would be one of those movies that you watch back in the day, and then when you watch it when you're older, especially when you've been through stuff, that you see it a whole different way. Yeah, whole different feeling. Yeah.
Well, and I not to talk about myself, I just related
No,
to this
that's what we're
movie
here
quite a
for.
bit.
Yeah.
But there was one,
yeah,
the
sure.
one scene that he refers to, and my mom's probably going to watch this, so I got to be careful with what I say here. So, but we, we've had ups and downs in our relationship. But I one thing I remember, I had this. I was admitted to the hospital when I was in college, and they wanted to do a procedure on me, and I was in so much pain, and I was like, I told her, I'm like, I don't want them to do, like, I need this pain to go away first before they do it. And she literally went into one of her Shirley MacLaine moments in the scene,
Oh wow.
the scene where she's like, give my daughter the shot. Like, it was good, obviously saying these different, but she
Wow.
stood up for me, and I will always remember that. But,
Mhm.
I think in that moment, despite the relationship that Shirley MacLaine had with Deborah Winger's character in the film, that she was right there, like, I am going to, be there for you, and I am not going to let you suffer anymore right now. Like, and I just think that is such an emotional moment in that film. So,
Mhm.
but again, going back to Michael and what he went through, just, seeing his father deteriorate like he did, it
Mhm.
had to be really, really difficult watching that film.
Mhm. Yep. All right. And
All right, I think I revealed more about myself on this podcast than I have of
yeah,
all
I
the others
love it.
combined. I'm so
Yeah, I
sorry.
agree.
So, all
Don't
right.
apologize. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Well,
love it.
and Paul, I mean, I know you went through some stuff as well too. So,
Hmm.
I'm not taking anything away from that, but
Oh no.
I know when your father passed, you and I were texting and, you
Hmm.
know, talking. And so I know that had to be tough. We've all experienced something like that.
Hmm.
It's just a reminder,
Yeah,
like you said,
sorry.
Suzanne, it can all change in an instant. So, you're just going along, with your business, and then all of a sudden you get bad news, and life changes dramatically in a second. So,
Hmm. Yep. Yep.
all right. So this has
All
been
right.
very uplifting. I'm so sorry.
That's awesome. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah. It is the
Uh,
saddest chapter in the book, so it might as well be the saddest
right.
part of the podcast. So,
It's
Yeah.
true. It's true. And I don't think he focuses on a lot of, happy, happy, joy, joy type of things.
right.
It's a
No.
serious book.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
chose serious themes to reflect on. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, the 80s is known for, like, like the big like action movies, the big loud stuff, but there was just as
yeah.
many, like, films like this that were awesome. So yeah, this is a good reminder. It's cool taking looking at something different perspectives, different types of movies. Yeah, so 1984 was Country with Jessica Lange and Sam Shepard.
Fine, right.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie?
That's another one I probably haven't seen in about like 30 years. Yeah.
Well,
I have to be honest. I think I was recognizing scenes. I think I might have seen it, or else you know how sometimes they tend to have two movies come out at the same time and they're almost the same movie.
Yeah.
Wasn't there one very similar to this with Mel Gibson, who he was a farmer?
Oh,
See,
you're
I'm
right.
not really sure if I'm remembering that
yeah,
movie
you are.
or I saw both.
Yeah, you are. And I think there were 3 or 4. There's a Sally Field movie that came out, and the Mel Gibson movie, and Sissy Spacek. Another one. I can't remember the title.
I'm not sure if I saw both of them and I'm remembering scenes from either, but yeah, that was kind of a decent theme, I think, in the 80s. They came out with, several similar movies at the same time, and I remember feeling it was very desperate feeling.
Yeah. Well, and I had completely
their experiences.
Forgot about the farmers and all of the financial issues that they had back in the 80s. And you talked about suicides, and farmers increased during that time period, and this film was a reflection of that. And Jessica Lange is I didn't finish the film. I went back and started to watch it, but she's so strong in this movie. But it's not uplifting at all. I mean, you're right there with the plight of what they're going through. But again, it's just another reminder of how bad things were, at that point for certain people, and especially the farmers.
Yeah, well, we're getting there again now. So
yeah. I mean, there were a lot of great things in the 80s, but but that was a
right. When you think of the 80s, you think more of Reaganomics and everybody having preppies having more money than they knew what to do with, and buying all these fancy cars and doing drugs in the bathroom and that kind of stuff. You don't stop and remember that there was another side to that, where they were going through kind of almost like a new Dust Bowl type of thing was happening out there. A lot of crises going on in the farm countries. So
yeah, and I think this is around the time when Willie Nelson actually started the Farm Aid.
Oh yeah,
with Willie, John Mellencamp, and Neil Young. Yeah, I think it's still going on today. Yeah,
I think you're right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, John Mellencamp's your homeboy, so you probably know.
About 30 minutes down the street. So.
Walk over there with the microphone. Yeah.
What was that? I didn't hear you. Sorry. What did you say?
Invite him on. Did he write a memoir?
Yeah. I'll see what I can do.
Okay. Have some levity here on this conversation.
Go over there with your microphone and supercomputer that you got, whatever you have there.
It's whatever I got at Costco for a cheap price. So.
But I think one of the main points out of this with him, it's showing how because with the farm going down, everything, Sam Shepard felt that he couldn't provide. So it's the point is that when men can't feel like they can provide anymore, they lose their masculine center. And because that's what they were always told what they had to do.
It's rough.
Yeah, what I remember from watching the movie here was Jessica Lange's trying to keep everybody together. And there's one just horrible scene where she this guy's on the verge of killing himself, and she goes and does everything she can to make sure he doesn't, and she walks out of the barn, and then you hear this gunshot. Just gut wrenching. So but again, just be prepared if you watch that movie that it is just going to just remind you of how things were.
Yep. All right, and this brings us to another happy movie, The Color Purple, 1985. Another incredible cast, and
See, this was not light stuff that he was
yeah,
watching. Especially these first few.
yeah. uh,
I read the book in college. I remember thinking, and it wasn't even for like racial reasons. I remember having similar thoughts that Steven Spielberg was probably just the most inappropriate person to be doing a film version of this book because it did have such serious themes, and he's just like kind of like bouncy music in the background and cool lighting, and just, I mean, he's a terrific storyteller, and I think he learned to be better at handling more um more dramatic themes or more
mhm.
serious themes. uh I mean, it's an okay adaptation, and it's nice that somebody decided they were going to take it on and took this subject matter so seriously. But I still feel like it had almost like this Disney, cutesy feel to it that to me was like, well, did he even read this book? Like, did he even read this? So it's hard for me to get on board with saying that was a great, a great version of the story. But it was it was a really amazing book. So
Did you see the musical? Was it a musical that was released recently? On
no, and I don't know how you're going to make that into a musical. Once again, I feel the same way. How could they make that into a musical? To me, that's just, people just going to break out into song about being an abused wife and harboring lesbian feelings for this other person, and it was just it was horrible. Like in reading the story, in reading the book, I felt like she was almost still a slave. Like she didn't even give her husband a name. She called him Mister,
Mhm.
which is like one letter off from master. To me, it sounded like a woman in this age of that, of that standing in that race was still kind of not that much better off than a woman, who was a slave. She was beaten. She was, not, she didn't have any love for this. It was just terrible. It was a terrible situation, and it was supposed to be a story of someone, kind of overcoming that to a certain degree, and finding her children and her sister in the end, etc. But it was difficult to live through that situation with her, and I still can't figure out how they made that into a musical. I won't. I can't watch it. I can't watch it.
Did
Did
they?
anybody
I
else see a
know they did it on
musical?
Broadway, but did they release it as a film too? They released the
Yeah,
musical as a film. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I
it came
thought.
came out
I'm
a
so
year
confused.
ago, 2 years ago. I don't remember, but yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, because as I knew
Just
they
shake
did
my head.
a Broadway musical of it. So
I need
yeah,
I need to
maybe,
go back and rewatch it just to see, because I don't remember. I mean, I don't remember that feeling from it, Suzanne. Um, but I'll look for that as I go back and watch it again.
well, I
Yeah.
don't think I never saw
Mm.
it, but that's kind of what he was talking about in Michael, because he picked this because of his mother had the book and everything. So he was kind of talking about the adaptation and everything. Huh. Yeah, I wonder if the musical is based on the movie rather than the book. So yeah, that'd be
Uh,
interesting if they
Maybe
did
it
redid.
is.
Yeah, maybe it would be good if they actually redid it. More in line with the book.
Were there
But
were there any other movies that you can think of in the '80s that covered subject matter? I mean, maybe Glory a little bit. Um,
well,
Glory.
anything
as
That was
far
else
as
that was,
race,
yeah, in that time period?
mhm.
I'm trying to think if there was
I'd probably
anything.
have to think of it,
Yeah,
only because those movies weren't necessarily aimed at me. So,
Right,
yeah, yeah,
exactly.
uh, but Glory is a good example. That was just a wonderful
yeah.
film. I cried at that one too.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that was a good one.
Uh,
Well, not that this has in particular with Color Purple, but I did like sort of behind the scenes stuff that he brought in on the movies. I'm always interested in that, the story
mhm.
behind the movie kind of thing. And he talked a little bit about the Steven Spielberg selection, and all of the movies he had done prior to that were all male lead characters. So this was a
Mhm.
complete different task for him. So, but I'll go back and watch it and just kind of see what I get out of it.
Mhm. Yep. All right, and this brings us to maybe the only fun movie, Aliens. We actually,
Yeah.
Dell and I actually did a episode Return of the '80s on this, and it's actually like one of the more popular episodes we had. So yeah,
It's a great movie,
yeah.
and one of the few movies that could be
Absolutely.
argued that the sequel might be better than the original,
Hmm.
but I would say
Right.
they're comparable. But
Right. That and Terminator 2, I would say. And
Mm.
they were similar time frame.
mm-hmm.
You know, it was like bang, bang. These great big sequels were coming out that were far glossier and more exciting than the originals, which seemed to be like that director kind of testing the waters. And then they
Hmm.
get a big budget and really blow everything completely out of the water. So, but Aliens was an amazing movie. And all the things that he was talking about, the kind of feminist
Mm.
bend that it had, I remember that being really fairly acknowledged at the time
Hmm.
that Sigourney Weaver was acting as a surrogate mother, and that even the monster was acting as
Oh
a
yeah,
mother in protecting all the little pods that were
Hmm.
eventually, set on fire. Um, I don't think that's um, a retrospective uh, view of it. I think at the time, everybody, I think I remember reading, was it in Rolling Stone or, some big entertainment magazine where they were kind of like, yeah, she's mother of the year. So, but,
Yeah.
and she was tough. And they had that one, tough Marine who was a woman who
Hmm.
he mentions some of that dialogue that she has. But those
Yeah.
were kick-ass characters, and kick-ass women in that film. And it was a terrific, exciting film. It wasn't, nothing was sacrificed for that, feminist point of view. So,
Hmm.
well, I wonder what the thinking was because she's spoiler alert here, but she's the only one to survive the original movie, the crew member to survive.
mm,
So they obviously had some plan for her down the road, but it was 6 or 7 years later before the sequel happened. But she's such a strong, I mean, she just take charge, and I'm not, I'm going to protect Newt, the character, and I'm going to protect my crew the best I can, and I'm going to do. So she takes over basically from these men who are supposed to be in charge of the
Hmm.
operation. So, I mean, there's the one scene, and Paul and I dissected the movie, but the one scene where the Marines go into that area, and they're all, the aliens are all on the walls, they're coming out of the walls and whatever, and Gorman, the guy in charge of the mission, just absolutely freezes. He doesn't even know what to do, and she
yeah,
like
he just
basically knocks him
folds.
out of the way, and goes to drive that whatever car or whatever it is that
Yeah.
their tank, or and busts in, and lets them, tries to rescue as many as she can. So but yeah, I mean, back in that time, back in the mid 80s, that was, have a lead character like that to basically shove the men out of the way because they're incompetent, and they don't, they're not able to do up to the job here. That
Mm.
that was
Except
impressive.
Hicks.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and I think it
I
solidified
had a little
her
crush on him
as,
too.
yeah, solidified her as the leading lady of Hollywood at the time. So
Hmm.
Yeah, she did all right.
yeah, till
Yeah.
she did
She did all right.
Ghostbusters 2, and then but that's all right. So we'll pretend that movie didn't happen.
Come on, there were fun movies.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. And then 1987 was, I never saw this one, Baby Boom.
Hmm.
So again,
See,
it
Baby
talks about
I really
the,
liked.
yeah, it sounds like it was good. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, about like the woman balancing her, work life with the child, and yeah, another, it's kind of resembles 9 to 5 with the way women treated in the workplace, whatnot,
Mhm.
especially when they're like
Yeah,
having when doing childcare.
right. It's not. The workplace was not a family friendly type of place at that time period. I remember seeing this. I had was only just in had to just started in the workforce, and was kind of trying to picture what my life was going to be.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I did not have any children, but was still kind of, I don't know, the anxiety. See, you guys didn't see the movie. Neither of you have seen
I've
Baby
seen
No,
it.
Boom.
I've seen it.
okay.
I felt like, despite her being Diane Keaton starting out as this, really high powered, she called herself Tiger Lady,
Mhm.
advertising queen, and I went into advertising eventually, so kind of
Mhm.
that kind of felt a little close to home, but I felt like there was a ton of anxiety in her life, having made that the change and deciding to, she gets this baby kind of dumped in her lap that one of her cousins died and
Died.
left their baby to her for whatever ridiculous reason that would be. But
Mhm.
so she decides to try and make a life in Vermont and buys this, 100-year-old colonial home or something that's falling apart, and she can't afford all the repairs, it turns out, and she like the anxiety of starting my life. I think like I saw a lot of parallels of the anxiety of her trying to get out of that rat race and deal with a new life.
Mhm.
So I kind of identified a lot with her, and I feel like, I don't know, it's just was a very stressful thing for a woman. I mean, maybe it's just as stressful for men to try and be in the, these high power positions, but I don't know. I felt like there's a lot of anxiety in that movie, despite it being a comedy and
Mhm.
working out okay. And I have to object to, they had said that there seemed to be interpreting that, and especially the end of the movie, as, oh well, women can't have it all. You have to just decide you're going to be domestic and sit home in an apple orchard with your baby, or you're the tiger lady who's the successful businesswoman. But I kind of resent that kind of talk. I mean, women make choices just like anybody else. If you want to do that, you choose to do that. It doesn't mean that you can't choose to also be working and still have a relationship with your children,
Mhm.
and that's, in that respect, I think women have more choices than men, because not a lot of people tell men they're allowed to just like sit home with their kid. And I think there's still a stigma to that, even though it's happening more than it used to.
It
Mhm.
it made me think about Kramer versus Kramer,
Mm.
if you remember that film from the
Mhm.
late '70s, and what Dustin Hoffman had to go through because he was prioritized. I mean, he went from, and it's the same story or same feeling that Diane Keaton's character had, where everybody loved her and she was doing a great job, and the company, she was all for the company, and same thing with, and then all of a sudden you prioritize your children, and then we have some issues, and I think that that's what she was
Yeah, and everything
experiencing.
changes, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, but again, I think you said it. It's about choices, and and
Yeah.
she made her choices in the film, and see what happens.
Yeah, and she wasn't just, she didn't just choose to just like sit home with the baby and sing lullabies. She was still
Right,
running the company.
right.
She was just doing it kind of more on her own terms. So I don't see that as compromising. I see that as her making her life work on as many levels as she possibly could. And maybe it's not the worst thing in the world that you can't have it all and have everything all at once. I kind of deal with that in my book, because I was one of those girls, like I'm saying, who was poured into the workplace and kind of was told you can have it all now. You can do everything. You can have children and life and relationships and a career and education. But yeah, you can have all that stuff, but you still have to make choices, and you can't have it all at once. You kind of have to have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I don't think it's that much different from what the choices men have to make. So I don't like seeing people get judgy about it. You know?
Mhm. Yeah. It seems like things have improved. That seems like there's more companies that are more family friendly these days. Yeah, especially
Absolutely.
since from back
Yeah,
then. Uh,
yeah. I think there's still the work is first
mhm.
with a lot of businesses, and I mean, I know people I talk to, and the appearances that their companies understanding, but when it comes down to it, work comes first. So, but I get it. I see both sides.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's totally blown up now that since COVID, and a lot of places are like telecommuting now and everything, where people working remotely. More
Hmm.
places now. I guess it depends on the industry you're in.
I don't know.
Uh,
Maybe it's that I've worked from home for 20 years, and I'm a consultant, so maybe I've seen a lot more flexible situations over the years than the typical woman who's out in the workforce. But I have a lot of the companies that I have worked with, including clients, somewhere maybe in the '90s, I feel like um, in the corporate world, men had to acknowledge that if women are in the workforce and we want our families to, the human race to perpetuate and people to continue to have children, we're going to have to make this a place where family has to be balanced a little bit with work. Otherwise, either there's going to be no more children, or we're not going to be able to take advantage of, the women who've come into the workplace. So, like I said, I acknowledge the fact that maybe my perspective is different and I've been luckier than some people because I've had a more flexible type of work format longer than a lot of other people. I coached a lot of people through COVID who suddenly were working from home and didn't know what
mhm.
to do with themselves.
Oh,
Or
that's
how to,
awesome.
deal with their children at the same time, like
Hmm.
I tried to help a lot of people through that because it's hard to be thrown into. It's a lot, it's a whole different kind of balancing act.
Hmm.
Okay.
Well, it's
Not to
amazing.
spend a
Yeah,
lot
you're
of
ahead of your time.
maybe a little.
I love that. All right, next was another one that I never heard of before, Crossing Delancey, and this speaks more to their the Jewish heritage. So I think that's why they picked this movie. Um, Starred Amy Irving. So yeah, this seemed interesting. I wouldn't mind checking this one out.
It
Were
was
you
good.
guys familiar?
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, it's another one that's on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So check that out. Susanna, this is what I mentioned to you that most of it, I think all of it, takes place in New York. So I don't know if you had a chance
Mhm.
to see it or not, but
I didn't go back and see Crossing Delancey. I didn't see it at the time, but I kind of feel like I have because I mentioned I work for some film companies. I worked for Columbia Pictures, and after that, I worked for a company named Swank Motion Pictures that sold second run films to like libraries and camps and airline companies and such. And they had a great big catalog, and Crossing Delancey was actually very popular at that time. And it was, and I was responsible to kind of explain it to a lot of people. So like we kind of got the lowdown on Crossing Delancey, even though I never saw it. So I sort of feel like I did. Um, and yeah, it was a very New York movie, and kind of into that whole milieu. I think it's also one of the few like more like a romance movie that they've got on the we've got on his list here. It seemed a lot
Hmm.
lighter and sweeter, and boy meets girl, even if it did come into what she was kind of like deciding whether to go with the fancy publisher or the guy who sells pickles who's like her soulmate. So
Hmm.
but that's like such a romance trope, like they've made that movie
Hmm.
80 billion times since.
Right. Yeah, but most Hallmark
Hallmark,
movies and stuff. Yeah.
all Hallmark, no, not most, all. Yeah.
This is just like a Jewish Hallmark movie.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, at least the Lifetime
But at
movies
least they did it first.
have a murder in them. So
Right. Yeah. Yes, that's the difference. Yeah.
sorry, Suzanne, you were going to say something.
No, I'm
Okay,
good.
okay.
Well, then that can bring us to our final one, 1989, The Fabulous Baker Boys. And I think I saw this one pretty close to when it came out, like on video. And yeah, I don't think, it was like 1920. I wasn't in a, boy. So I wasn't the target audience for that. So I was kind of bored with that. So maybe I would like it more now, but
I
um,
haven't seen it.
no.
Really, it's a fun movie. It's an interesting movie. Uh, it got a whole lot of attention, and if I remember, didn't Michelle Pfeiffer win an Oscar? I think for that. I think she might
Oh,
have. There
maybe.
was just there was a big fuss over. She does this. Have you seen the movie, Paul? No,
Yeah,
you said
yeah.
you said it a long
Mhm.
time ago, but you didn't really
Look,
pay attention to it.
right.
Nomination, Oscar nomination.
Oh, she got nominated.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um,
She
yeah, she's a great actress, and she did a ton of movies in the '80s.
Hmm.
She did this one. I mean, she was a singer. Number one, I was a singer, so I kind of, I relate to any movies about singers.
Hmm.
Um, but it was a little on the ordinary side, if you ask me. Um, what was kind of extraordinary about the movie was, and he talks about the scene. She does this very steamy number in this very tight red velvet dress, like a torch song,
Hmm.
and she does it on top of a piano,
On the piano.
where
Yeah,
she's sort of
that's
rolling
the
around
that's the
like
scene I
Madonna.
remember.
Right. Well, it was a hot scene. She did a beautiful job.
Hmm.
Um, and it was a pivotal scene emotionally between her and Jeff Bridges, who was playing the piano at the time, because they finally, I think, acknowledged that something big was going to happen between them. That they really had the hots for each other, or what have you. But so that scene was really good. And Michelle Pfeiffer was good. She's always good, and she always looks great, even when she's playing pay. She was playing kind of a down on your luck type of character. She wasn't very glamorous. It wasn't that kind of singer. It was like I'm never really going to be famous, but I'm going to keep singing type of, lounge entertainer.
Hmm.
Not like I'm going to be a big star. So, it was an okay movie. I wouldn't say that it was. I wasn't quite as big a supporter of it as a lot of other people, in the industry. I think,
Hmm.
or anybody
Yeah.
who was hot from Michelle Pfeiffer.
Mhm. Yeah. And yeah, and also it had Jeff and Bo Bridges in it. I don't think were they in that for any other movies together. I remember that one because they were in it
Hmm.
together.
Yeah, it's true.
It- yeah, and
So
they were
yeah, there was
brothers
that
in
hook
that.
that they actually were brothers and they were playing brothers. So
Yeah. So yeah, yeah,
yeah, and they caused, there was conflict between the brothers that was so because they were, of course, how could you not fall in love with Michelle
Michelle
Pfeiffer?
Pfeiffer. Yeah, yeah. A little
So
bit of a
yeah,
love
they were
triangle
both
there.
kind of in love with Susie Diamond, who she was playing,
Hmm.
and there was conflict there over, even if one wasn't as much in love with her, it was then kind of, it was throwing off the power dynamic between the
Hmm.
two brothers. So it was an interesting triangle.
Hmm. Yep. All right, and I think that covers that book. Um, yeah, I think we covered actually covered all the topics that
Wow.
I wanted to cover
Yeah, we
too.
actually got
We
through that
talked about
quicker than I thought we would.
yeah, yeah,
All the movies that he mentioned, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because I wanted to touch on about why about the '80s and everything, and we touched on that with all the with the VCR and how why it would be a lot of people's favorite decade. Yeah, we touched on everything. Yeah, and the representation in all these movies between female driven. Um, yeah, yep. And altogether, I listed the themes across all the movies. There was the motherhood with aliens and baby boom, work on an identity with 9 to 5 and baby boom, family and loss with terms of endearment and country and heritage and culture was crossing the Delancey, and queerness and identity come back to the Five and Dime Jimmy Jean Jimmy Dean. So
wow.
yeah, and some of these like still resonate strongly today. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
these
absolutely.
movies are kind of timeless. Well, well, maybe not the color purple, but we'll have to see. I'll have to watch that. um, yeah.
Well, I think the thing that's inspiring for me anyway is that going back and watching these movies that I haven't seen in 30 years, 40 years in some cases, just the different perspective that you have now.
Hmm.
Now that we're the age that we are, we'll just say that. And
Hmm.
Yeah.
so just how like you had mentioned, Fabulous Baker Boys, the time period didn't interest you when you were younger, and 1989, I could find other things to do with those 2 hours of my life. But now I
Hmm.
may go back and
Exactly.
watch it and just say, okay, what what am I getting out of this movie now that maybe I wouldn't have back then?
Hmm.
So, but it goes for almost everything on this list. I think I've watched Aliens every month since it came out. So, so I don't really
It's a
have
great movie.
I don't have this big time period where I can.
It's grown with you.
Yes, yes. So, and it still holds up, but
Yeah,
and
yeah.
but yeah, so many good movies on that list, and some that I think in some ways maybe like a Crossing Delancey or something that may be forgotten about, and
Hmm.
come back to the Five and Dime Jimmy Dean, same deal. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested in checking that out, especially with that cast. And yeah, I love the idea because did watch the trailer of it, and it totally looks like it was a play. Like you could tell that they filmed it
yeah,
that way and everything. I like those
Mm.
types of things. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I mentioned it last week when we were having the technical difficulties. I think that was one of Cher's first film roles.
Hmm.
And you watch that,
Yes.
and it's clear that she is going to have a very successful film career.
Filter.
She's
Hmm.
just that good in the movie. And then Kathy Bates is in it as well. You just and you'll see some other characters like, oh, I recognize that person. So
Hmm.
it's a really good movie. I was shocked. I thought I'm gonna kind of like Fabulous Baker Boys. I'm like, I'm gonna hate this, but it was really good. It was really good. And I'll
Hmm.
probably feel the same way about Fabulous Baker Boys when I get around to watching it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
the color purple. We'll see how that goes. So yeah.
Yeah.
Read the book.
All
Read
right.
the book.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Maybe I'll do both. Maybe we'll do both. So,
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, could do that.
All right, and then we picked the book for August of The Celebrants by Stephen Rowley, and I think it's a newer book as well, but it's about um, people of our generation. It's five friends. I think it's five friends that are around our age, and they gather together every so often. They had a friend that died, and then ever since then they support each other, so that every once in a while they meet up at this one place. And it's kind of feels like the Big Chill combination of Big Chill Breakfast Club with all the all the different personalities, and we can relate because they flash back to the 90s when they were in college. Maybe a little St. Elmo's Fire in there too,
oh,
but then
don't
it
tell
goes
me
back
that.
to modern day. Not exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No bongos or anything in here. Stalking.
Suzanne, you weren't involved with back then, but we did a St. Elmo's Fire podcast, and I had never seen the movie, and I regret that I actually did not watch the movie.
Oh, did you
What a
trash
bu-
St. Elmo's
what
Fire? I
a-
love St.
Oh
Elmo's
my
Fire.
gosh! What a bunch of spoiled brats. I mean, the brat
I have
pack
a script
is
over here
yes,
from-
the spoiled
I have
brat
a
pack.
script of St. Elmo's Fire.
Oh my
Yeah, well,
gosh!
I don't know that I'd argue with you on that, but at the time, being the same age as those characters, I wanted all
Yes.
those same things.
Okay, I so much
But
I so much more related and liked the Breakfast Club than I did St. Elmo's Fire. But yeah, the only
Yeah.
good thing was the theme song. But
I'll see. So that's another good point. Like some of these movies we might not have understood, related to back then, but we do now. But then this is the case where we related to it back then, and now we see it like totally different now.
yeah. Well, and here's the thing about that movie is I did not see it when it came out,
Right.
and then I
Yes.
saw it at 20 years later, and so I'm seeing it as like this grumpy old man, and
Yeah.
as opposed to somebody
I
that
gotta show you something.
was living it at the time.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So I wonder if you would have seen it differently if you did see
might
it
have.
back
I
in the
might have.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So yeah, that just goes to show like you see it something in a different way when you're older, good or
Shit.
bad.
What she got?
can you see?
Oh no, it's blurry.
This is a script of St. Elmo's Fire from Columbia
my
Pictures
gosh.
Oh.
from 1984. Wait, I'm gonna take off the blur. Maybe I'm not gonna be able to figure out how to do this quickly enough.
I'm looking on my Facebook on the phone. It's blurry on my screen, but it might be fine on the social media part.
Well, it's
Let me
almost
see.
like impossible though for me
No,
to
it's
see whether
blurry there too.
you see
Yeah.
it.
But still, we'll take your
But
word for it. It's a script from St.
yeah,
Elmo's Fire.
kind of a prized possession that I had them take this home, or make me a copy. It's dated October 8th, 1984, and it has one of my boss's names on it, so I know it's real.
Whoa.
But anytime somebody talks about this movie on social media, I take pictures of this and send it and post it. Love it. But no, I could see there's a lot of holes in the plot, so I kind of get it if you watch it now as an adult and I'm like, what the heck? How did she afford that apartment?
Well, she couldn't, but
Yeah, that's true. In the end, I guess she couldn't. So it's not that much of a problem. It came and took all her shit away. But I'm sorry. I get emotional.
It's kind of like the same thing with Ferris Bueller's. That's another one when you go back to now. So, what a prick. Yeah.
I know people kind of resent Ferris Bueller now. They're like, Jeannie was right.
Yeah, exactly. I relate to her.
No wonder she was pissed.
Yeah.
I still love Ferris Bueller too, though.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Yeah. So yeah, now that this opens things up, it makes me wonder, want to go back and revisit some other movies. So I'll have to, do some research and see if there's anything that I might not have seen before, or taken for granted, or didn't understand. If I go back and watch it and see it in a different way now. So yeah, and then maybe you can watch a movie with my mom and
Yeah, see how that goes. Report back to us. See, I was always watching movies with my mom, so it wouldn't be anything different ever. I go to visit them now. We'll watch 10 movies, all day long. We're watching movies.
Okay, so I guess we can wrap things up now. See, Suzanne, you want to tell people how they can find you or your book? Got anything going on?
Oh yeah. Okay, well, I am the author of Once in a Lifetime, which is a book that takes place in the 80s. Girls on college leave, and it's a lot of new wave music and pop culture and art and such. So you can find me on SuzanneMattaboni.com, or there's a onceinaLifetimenovel.com site. And I'm on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, mostly Facebook these days. But, it's fun.
And Del, you going to be coming back soon?
Yeah, we're back now.
You're back now? Okay.
Yeah, we started yesterday. So yesterday morning.
Oh, shoot. You're 50 minutes into your show. Shoot.
Yeah, I'm 51 minutes. Yeah.
52.
So it's double duty. It's rough. So, but yeah, it's the 80s at 8 on WEDM. You can download the app. We're on for 4 hours, 4 totally different shows. So yeah, check it out. 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday and Sunday.
Awesome. Yep. I highly recommend that. And you can find me at Gen X Journeys and Instagram, Facebook, genxjourneys.net is the website that I need to update. And then you also are blowing up on TikTok now. Is Gen X is doing a big takeover. That's the thing to do now. So yeah. So if you're Gen X and you want to hop on TikTok, you put one of those emojis of the big red X in your name, and you're gonna end up having a big huge following because we're all taking it over. So yeah, it's a lot of fun on there. So yeah. It's so funny now. I'm following all these people, so now I'm seeing all Gen X people on there now. I'm not seeing all the stupid garbage on there. So so
more fun.
Yeah. And yep. And like I said, the Celebrants, and I'm probably like almost a quarter of the way through. And yeah, it's pretty good. So yeah, interesting characters. So I love that stuff. So yeah, so check that out, and then we'll see you next month, and I'll see how this recording comes out and streams and work out any bugs.
Yeah,
And I
fingers
want to thank
crossed.
you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.